your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS, Twitter, and WhatsApp.
Good morning. It is the 23rd of May 2024 and you're right on time for K24's New Dawn. My name is Joel Chacha. Even as today we focus on the Finance Bill 2024 April. Remember, still, it is before the National Assembly and the public. Of course, you are free to continue submitting your memorandum, but next week from Monday, of course, the Finance and National Planning Committee will begin its a public hearing that, of course, will be right here on K24, all the details. Today, we'll be having two sets of guests. In this first segment, of course, I'll be sitting down, that is with Joyce Gashugi Waweru, CEO, PACPRO, and as well Eric Githwa, who is the chairperson or the chairman of the Alcohol Beverage Association of Kenya, that is ABAC, even as we discuss what's contained in the Finance Bill 2024. More specifically, it's the eco levy and as well excise on beer, wine, and spirits. Later on in our program, I'll be having a sit-down on how to finance the next budget, that is the 2024-2025 budget, being President William Ruto's second budget that stands at a record high of 3.9 trillion. However, it was reduced by around 270 billion compared to the budget policy statement that was before the National Assembly. But of course, that will be right here with my key guests in studio also. That is Honorable Dr. John Kanyuthia Mutunga, Chair of the Agriculture Committee in the National Assembly, Honorable Nabi Nabwera, Member of the Education Committee, and as well the Rugali Member of Parliament, and as well on the program will be a member of the Finance Committee, that is Dr. John Ariko, who is also a legislator from Turkana South. A conversation that you can't afford to miss, and start the conversation about social media platforms at K24 TV at Joel Chacha, as well on our SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. But just to highlight what's on our dailies this morning, before beginning our discussion, the People Daily, that is Kenya's #1 free newspaper owned by MediaMax Limited, which also owns the K24 TV, splashes that the reasons behind Ruto-Gachagua war. Remember, that is as far as the political, of course, temperatures in the country are concerned. And People Daily, of course, insiders revealed that away from the smiles for cameras while in public, the DP is fast turning into a deeply, of course, polarizing and actually a figure in his boss or to his boss and Mount Kenya allies. That is on page 7. We'll be touching it in details, of course, later on the program. Also, Daily Nation, Omtata moves to block Finance Bill, jumping the gun. Busia Senator Okiya Omtata wants the High Court to stop public participation on the proposed taxation measures because, contrary to procedure, the National Assembly has prioritized the Finance Bill 2024 before considering the approving the Appropriations Act of 2024. That also we'll be discussing later on in our program with my guests in the second set. And the Standard newspaper, black market to thrive as Ruto tax plan suffers blow. That is Kenyans actually bracing for taxes as the William Ruto government seeks to bridge its budget deficit. However, experts warn the more levies a government introduces, the more evaders will rise, denying KRA taxes, even as, of course, petitioners move to court seeking to block MPs from passing the finance bill, that is the 2024. Also, on the government's new plan to privatize more than 200 parastatals. That, of course, is what is on the Standard. Quickly, let's touch on the Star newspaper. That is how Mount Kenya political wave will hit Ruto Raila. The region's bigwigs say they will field their own presidential candidate in 2027. Remember, there was the Limuru 3 meeting that took place a few weeks ago, and the former President Uhuru Kenyatta was endorsed to be the region's kingpin. Now, actually, yesterday we saw the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who spoke in vernacular, saying he's also quoting or urging the former President Uhuru Kenyatta to work together in uniting the region. Now, and as promised, we take a close keen on the Finance Bill 2024, just to narrow it down, more specifically, of course, to the Eco Levy. Once again in studio, I'm joined by Joyce Gashugi Waweru, who is the CEO, PACPRO. Thank you so much for creating time this morning.
Thank you, Joel. And
as well, Eric Githwa, Chairman, Alcohol Beverage Association of Kenya. Thank you so much for creating time.
Thank you, Joel.
Just to begin with the Eco Levy, perhaps. What is this? Kenyans have perhaps never heard of it, Eco Levy, in the Finance Bill 2024. Just elaborate briefly.
So ideally, an Eco Levy is a tax that is applied to be able to put in place considerations for the negative environmental impacts that products have on the environment. So from an environmental economics perspective, it's actually a good thing that environmental costs are being considered in the budget planning process and in the financial planning process in Kenya. The only challenge we have with the Eco Levy in other jurisdictions that it has been applied, it's usually applied for difficult to trace in terms of responsibility. Who is supposed to pay the burden for actually managing the environmental impact of these particular products? For instance, in Ghana, in Tanzania, and in other jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom, Eco Levy is applied on electronic waste, largely because we have a situation where a lot of the e-waste is not manufactured in one country, so it's coming from different sources, and so at that point of importation, then it is applied. But now we have a situation where government is applying this across board, including plastic packaging.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's what I believe your company also works on?
Yes.
Briefly on what your company does?
Our company is a members organization, and we represent the interests of manufacturers and brand owners to ensure that their packaging is collected for either recycling or any other treatment as prescribed by NEMBA under the Sustainable Solid Waste Management Act of 2022. Yes.
Well, and now also to engage Eric Githo as far as the excise duty on alcohol is concerned. What is this contained in the Finance Bill 2024?
Thanks for that, and happy to be here to be part of this discussion. Basically, when it comes to alcohol, especially and I'll address about spirits, there is actually a proposal to increase the spirits excise tax by 79%. So it is a proposal that we find that to be quite wanting from a perspective of we understand the importance of paying taxes. As ABAC members, we are keen at paying taxes, and we'll always support the need to pay taxes. However, our request is that can it be staggered? 79% is quite high at a go. Can it be staggered? Can it be 20% this year, another 20%
So at the moment
year?
It's flat?
So yes, because the current rate is 356 Kenya shillings per litre of spirit, and with the proposal, it could translate to about Kenya shillings 640 per litre of spirits. So that is a big issue for us, because if you look at the current play, we are playing in an area whereby there's a lot of illicit alcohol. And actually we did a research as an industry last year, working together with the government, and we realized that 59% of alcohol sold in Kenya is illicit. So imagine 6 bottles out of 10 are actually illicit. Only 4 are legitimate.
So what are the dangers of having this excise now on, of course, spirits?
Okay.
The figures could go up?
Correct.
Maybe to 10 out of 10?
We hope not to get there, because we all appreciate that when illicit thrives, we are finding a situation where there is the health issues affecting our own citizens, and we are very keen at protecting the livelihood, of course, of all Kenyans. The danger is that with an increase, especially at such a level of 80% at a go, you'd find a situation whereby there is a possibility people will move to illicit. Again, why? Because Kenyans are very price sensitive. And Kenyans currently do not have, or most of them have depreciated level of income or to spend, especially on entertainment or adult beverages like ourselves. And if you look at the current pricing, you'll find that 49% of the recommended retail price for most value spirits is actually excise and VAT. So think about it that way. So it will mean that even the 49% might move to 51, 52 as a result of just excess and VAT. So that is something that it's concerning.
But you're welcoming the move by this particular finance bill to lower or having a lower excise duty on beer?
Yes, so we did a joint, we had actually done some stakeholder engagement with the government on it. And we are welcoming the thinking behind it. And the thinking is for lower alcohol, what we call ABV, alcohol by volume products, they should be taxed less. So that's why you find that for beer and wine, they have been given a slightly, different tax rate and tax regime, which to encourage people towards lower alcohol by volume. So even for spirits, we are not against the move. All we wish is that can it be staggered? Because to give you the context, between 2021 and 2023, for spirits excise rate, they were increased by about 34% within those years. But now with one shock of 80%, the industry unfortunately will not be able to handle it. And if legitimate manufacturers like ourselves, our members, are impacted, the sad bit will see a situation whereby we wouldn't even be able to probably even support the local farmers. Because again, a lot of our spirit comes from actually sugarcane, molasses, sugarcane, and it's just grown here in Western Kenya. So the ripple effect is quite something.
Back to you. Perhaps as far as, of course, this eco-levy is concerned, are you taking issue with the whole clause or specifically for the plastic recycling machinery, which have now been removed from tax exemption?
So ideally for us, no, it's not just for the plastic packaging. So what happened is that in 2022, government actually gazetted the Sustainable Waste Management Act. And in that act, it mandates that all producers, every company that is putting product into market, whether you're in the e-waste, e-manufacturing, plastic production, including even the agrochemicals, that they should be responsible for their waste after consumers have engaged with their products. That is in effect what we call extended. So exactly. So it kicked off. This process became then mandatory in August, is when NEMA, the National Environmental Management Authority, actually gazetted the mandate making it mandatory. However, between August and now, where we are, between NEMA and private sector, we have been trying to craft EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility, for the country. And so we've been working collaboratively.
So actually, it's still in the crafting process.
So we are deploying initiatives. We are already recovering. For instance, the organization I represent, PACPRO, to date we've already collected nearly 2 billion PET plastic bottles. We've already injected, as a sector, EPR sector, 270 million Kenya shillings. What that means is that this money is actually trickling down to the bottom of the pyramid. The waste collectors that you see carrying the gunias, it's actually going back to them. This is actually the real bottom-up economy. Remember, the waste management sector is one of the fastest growing informal sector job creators. So in effect, what this new eco-levy does, whether we are looking at it from the e-waste perspective or from the plastic packaging, is that it raises the costs, and also it double taxes these producers. So they are going to be paying for EPR because it's in the law. And then now you have eco-levy being introduced, making their products very expensive.
For the EPR?
So for EPR,
it
is graduated. It is graduated, and it depends on the packaging you're producing. At a maximum, we've only been paying about 15 to 17 shillings per kilo. The plastic
so
packaging. You pay
that to NEMA?
No, it is paid to our organization, and then we distribute these funds into the market through the value chain. Remember, one of Kenya Kwanza's key mandates and one of their actual commitments under the medium-term plan, the fourth one that they did, is to actually develop value chains. And so that's what we've been doing together with the Ministry of Environment as well as NEMA, trying to craft a value chain that is fit for purpose so that we minimize plastic pollution in the country. Today, the eco-levy that is being charged is 150 shillings per kilogram. That means you're cooking
This one
oil.
that is being proposed.
Yes, that is being proposed.
150
shillings per kilogram
on the
of
already
plastic.
existing EPR.
On the already existing packaging, not on the EPR. So you'll pay EPR, and then you'll come again and pay the eco levy.
So that's more of double taxation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Perhaps on the issue, of course, around excise on these alcohol issues, just compare the rates of Kenya and other, let's say, EAC countries, member states.
Sure, it's a big issue, and maybe before even we go to that, also to jump in the part of double taxation, it's actually something, there's also a clause in the bill that we are not happy with, even from an alcohol manufacturing perspective, because if you look at it, there is a clause where they're saying they want to remove the ability of manufacturers to claim excise inputs that had been paid from a raw material. For example, if you are a manufacturer of spirits, you will buy ENA, which comes from molasses. At that point, you pay excise on it. And again, this will be paid at the new rate. So if it's something that it's actually extra neutral, alcohol will be at about 96, 97%. So that will be at about a new tax of 1,536 shillings. Now, what is required is manufacturer will pay at that point. Then at the point of manufacturing, you do a set-off. You tell the government, I use this 1 liter to make 2 or 3 liters. So this is the new cost. Then you do a set-off on taxes. But now there is also that proposal to remove that bit, our ability to claim back. That is a proposal that will actually make, and it will actually disadvantage local manufacturing over importation of alcohol. Because what will happen is, you'll be double taxed at the point of raw material, and it's at a very expensive rate, which is also what is proposed for the finished product. Then at the point of you have also made it, you cannot claim back, so you can't do a set-off, so it means you'll have to pay taxes. It will just not make any logic to produce in Kenya.
You know, I come from a border town,
yes.
that is Isibania, the
yes.
border of Kenya and Tanzania.
Correct.
And usually, when you travel there, of course, I would see so many people preferring to take liquor or
yes.
alcohol from the other side and
Serrare.
not in Kenya.
Yes.
Why so?
Because it's
and
cheaper.
That's where, of course, now it comes to the rates in comparison to other
Correct.
members of the EAC.
Correct.
How are we doing if these, of course, proposals in the finance bill see the light of the day?
So first, it's actually very cheaper. Alcohol is more affordable in Tanzania and Uganda because the excise rates are not as high. And then also, like in a country like Tanzania, there is more predictable excise tax environment where you find Tanzania for about 5 years, they have not increased the excise rates. They have built the value chains. The issues of illicit, while here we are at 59%, it is not as high as our neighbors because the reality is consumers can afford legitimate alcohol, while the case in our country, consumers cannot afford. So there is an entire conversation within EAC.
So you want to make alcohol more affordable?
So yes. So what happens is this: like for us, our request to the government is we need to recruit from the 59% who are actually having illicit, because alcohol will always remain an adult beverage, and we have responsible ways of marketing it, and it's actually a product of choice for those who want to have it. But there is a 59% that we really need to ensure that they come back to the legitimate fold so that they don't have elements, you know, like in illicit, you might find people, instead of having ethanol, they're drinking methanol. So there is a conversation within EAC on harmonization, which has been led by IMF. There are even proposed rates where it's about $6, $8, or $10. And even Kenya is participating within the EAC harmonization discussion. The only challenge we have with this bill is that it's even going against the spirit of the harmonization discussion. Because the highest rate is $10. So if you look at $10 and the proposed rate they have, it's way higher. So we are actually pricing ourselves higher than even what is being discussed at the highest rate in EAC. So meaning that those cross-border practices, it's very unfortunate, true, in border towns. You go to the legitimate bar owners, they don't even have footfall because everybody goes to the other side.
Joyce, perhaps what's the implication now to the consumers, you know, for Kenyans just to understand, well, this eco levy exists. Of course, Joyce is here dismissing it. Of course, even calling for the whole clause to be dismissed. But what's the end goal, or what's actually what the consumer will now feel while buying these products that have this packaging?
So ideally, Joel, I want to zero in on the reality of our country. We are an import market, which means predominantly our products are imported. In order for that to happen, it means most of our products are actually in plastic, okay? That means about 90% of what we put in the market is actually has some form of plastic packaging in it. So if we look at the most basic item, your bread, it means that the cost of your bread is going to go up. So for instance, your bread right now is...
So that is on top of the already proposed 16% VAT on bread.
Exactly.
That perhaps on 400 grams of bread, it will hike by 10 shillings.
Correct.
So we are likely
now
to
you
have
add
it
another, exactly.
Another?
It will be another 1.2% on top of the 16%. So in essence, we're looking at nearly 18% added on top of your bread packaging. And then you look at your milk sachet, the Kadogo economy. How do products move in that Kadogo economy? It's largely through plastic, because plastic
also
packaging
milk prices are likely to shoot
up. It will go
up.
up. Every single thing that has plastic packaging will go up. Your cooking oils, already you can see they have already an increase in excise that is being proposed in this tax, in this bill. So
that's
you can
up to around 80%.
Exactly, around 80%. Then now you add the additional cost of 150 kilograms, 150 shillings per kilogram on the containers that are being used to move.
So manufacturers must pass these costs to the...
There's no way they can absorb this cost and remain profitable. And also it begs the question, how much headroom do you and I as consumers have to absorb these costs right now? We're already feeling the cost of high inflation. We are not in control of the prices of crude oil and fuel, which means at any one time, the cost of inflation for fast-moving consumer goods that we use every day is going to be significantly affected.
And perhaps back to you, also just paint to us this grim picture of how things will be like should these sell through come, of course, the start of the next financial year.
So for us, first, we really care for the health of the consumers. And we've always seen that trend where you have an increase, it leads to actual growth of illicit. So we find a situation whereby such might be able to ensure that, sadly, most consumers might fall into the illicit bracket and follow from the legitimate players.
But there's an option of beer.
Because of affordability again. Maybe let me just tell you what the trend is. So you'd find, for example, beer and wine is not affordable to the masses. So a lot of the people are having a trend whereby instead of the three of us buying different sets of beer and wine, why can't we just buy one spirit, then we share? Now, you find the middle class might not be able now to afford even that because of the rates. Comparing if there is a 1,536, add 640, those numbers are huge. Now, what would happen, you'll find within the middle class, there is a probability of a shift to value products. That's why you find in the category somebody saying, you know, vodka is vodka, and they shift down. Now, for those who are already in the value products, there is a shift to illicit.
Well,
so there is always that impact on the shift, and it sadly, it moves to from our country, people move to illicit.
Well, just even as we wind up, perhaps what's your clarion call to the government as far as the PAC Pro is, of course, just looking at this Finance Bill 2024?
I think, Joel, one, I want to reiterate that as private sector manufacturers, brand owners, we are really committed to ensuring that plastic pollution in the country is managed, okay? And that's why we have a huge commitment by members in our organization to pay up and actually comply with the extended producer responsibility as is envisioned under Section 13 of the Sustainable Waste Management Act. And because that is already at play, we are seeking that the eco-levy is actually deleted to give room...
The whole clause?
The whole clause, because we already have this other clause that is mandating management. You don't want it
perhaps to be staggered as they propose?
No, there's no staggering because we already have an existing policy approach that is at play to handle plastic pollution.
Well, finally, your final remarks.
So for us, our request to the government is that we are keen at people paying taxes, and we always promote the culture of paying taxes. Our request is to have a repeal or a deletion of the clause where you can't claim the input taxes that were paid on it, but even more importantly, also to have a staggered approach to excise taxes for spirits. We believe that's a win-win scenario for both the government, the consumer, and even the local manufacturers and all players within the industry.
Well, thank you so much. That's Eric Githua, Chairman, Alcohol Beverage Association of Kenya, that is ABAC, and as well as Joyce Gashugi Waweru, CEO PACPRO, who have joined us, of course, in this conversation on the Finance Bill 2024. Just taking a look, of course, at the eco levy and the excise on alcohol, of course, alcoholic drinks in the country. They say they're opposing that. Of course, we'll be seeing how that will be handled before the Finance Committee of the National Assembly during this public participation period, if at all the courts will not halt it. But coming back after this break, I'll be having a sit-down with the Honorable Dr. John Ariko, who is a member of the Finance Committee, as well Honorable Dr. John Kanyithia Mutunga, who is the chair of the Agriculture Committee, and as well Honorable Nabina Abwera, member of Parliament Lugari and a member of the Education Committee. It is, of course, a conversation on the Finance Bill 2024 and a whole conversation on how to finance Ruto's second budget, that is 2024-2025. Keep the conversation going, and of course, I'll be sampling of your feedback. At that juncture, we take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned, and thank you.